I paid my girlfriend $100,000 to break up with me. Why? Well, keep watching to find out. I'm not a poor man, not by any means. I have a very good job, and I'm well off in terms of money. That's why a lot of girls are attracted to me, not because of my personality or looks, but because of my wealth. And I guess I would take advantage of the situation. Growing up, I never had a girlfriend. I was too awkward and shy to charm a girl into dating me. But as I got older and the dollars started raking in, more and more girls suddenly found an interest in me. And I wasn't stupid. I knew exactly what they were doing. I knew they were using me, but I didn't care. I was just glad to have someone, to actually have a girlfriend. I admit, I would date several girls at once, but I'm not proud of it. My first girlfriend was this brunette from the city who spotted me in a bar with a couple of my friends. I was wearing a suit and tie, admittedly an expensive one, and she seemed to gravitate instantly towards me. She started flirting with me. I didn't even know it at the time, and asked me if I wanted to see her that weekend. Go on a date. I freaked. I could feel the sweat dripping down me as my friend snickered at me behind my back. Sure, I mumbled. She giggled and walked away, leaving me feeling like a fool, but also like $1,000,000. Yes, I was in my 20s, but I had just gotten my first date. As it turned out, my wealth made dating a whole lot of an easier experience than it had been in high school. Girls practically threw themselves at me. It was so alien to me, but I loved it. I didn't even need to bother about trying to give off the pretense of being charming and flirtatious. They knew what they wanted, so they didn't care if I was this awkward blob. I remember I was at another bar and this girl approached me, asking if we could chat. Then, right after, another girl came over and then the two girls started fighting. They were yelling at each other, screaming at each other to leave. I was so overwhelmed, I just stood up and sneaked out. But then, suddenly, there came a time when I wanted to end the relationship. Sure, the first few dates were really exciting, especially for me, as I was a newbie. But once I got to understanding the personalities of these women, I realized they weren't all that interesting. Frankly, they were quite boring. And me, the geek, the socially awkward millionaire, I would be the one to break up with them. It was strange and new to me, but I soon got used to it. Whenever I ended a relationship, some women would get all mad. Some would be sad. Some would be accepting. But never did anyone react in a way that Kelly did. Man, she was one special woman. Kelly was my girlfriend, and even though after the first month of dating I wanted to break up with her already, she refused. She literally would not accept my breakup. Yes, she was beautiful. She always wore a green beanie and had curly blonde hair. But I didn't like her. She was quite mean and bossy, to tell you the truth. And I wanted to end things between us, move on, but she wouldn't accept it. I tried to ignore her, but she would come to my house, and I wasn't strong enough to tell her to leave. I was still quite a shy man, you see. I didn't see her every day, and she only bothered me when she needed money or wanted a present, so I began to accept it. Whenever she came to my house, I was so annoyed, but I would give her a bracelet or necklace, and she would soon leave. We got into this kind of routine. I would date other women, mind my own business, and randomly she would show up at my house. She wouldn't even say anything. She would just put out her hand, and I would sigh, bringing out my wallet or the necklace I had bought in advance. She would complete the transaction, and she would be on her way. And I would breathe a sigh of relief for another few weeks of freedom from Kelly. I guess I adopted the life of a sugar daddy, as they say. Meanwhile, I was dating other women, and I met someone who was the most amazing woman I'd ever met, Julia. She didn't care about my money. She didn't accept my gifts. I tried to shower her with presents. She was among the few who I really wanted to spoil. But she would just refuse. She really loved me, for me, and I was so unused to it. I wanted to break off all my other relationships just to stay with her. I was still technically dating Kelly, and she still came to my house. I knew I shouldn't have done this, but I didn't want to confront Kelly by telling her we were over, or that I wouldn't give her any presents anymore. So I broke off all my other relationships except for my strange relationship, if you could even call it a relationship, with Kelly. And I tried to forget her and just focus on my time with Julia. I was head over heels for Julia. I couldn't believe she would like a guy like me. She didn't seem interested in my wealth, as I already said before, so it had to be something with my personality because I sure wasn't handsome or fit. But all of my life, I had been told I was this awkward, geeky kid who would never be loved. And I really believed it. But Julia loved me, and she was amazing, so maybe I wasn't all that bad. One day, I was at Julia's house, and Kelly came. I spotted her blonde hair and beanie through the window. She said she'd gone to my house, saw me, and followed me to Julia's. I was so scared Julia would find out who Kelly was, so I just gave Kelly $100 then and there and told her to leave right away. She did, so I was lucky Julia hadn't seen her. I didn't even like Kelly, not at all. But I was stuck in this sort of deal we had, and I didn't know how to get out. Months went by, and I wanted to marry Julia. I had it all planned. I would take us to our first date spot by the river, and I would get down on one knee and tell her all about how I was madly in love with her, how I wanted to spend the rest of my life with her. But I couldn't do it with Kelly still hanging on to me. I decided I had to end it. I had to tell Kelly we were through. No more presents, no more surprise visits. It was over. I knew it would be difficult, but I desperately wanted to stay with Julia, and Kelly would just have to suck it up and deal with it. But still, the next time Kelly came to visit me, I was afraid. When she showed up on my doorstep, I didn't give her the usual gold necklace. I told her to come in and sit down, that we needed to talk. She immediately looked suspicious. I told Kelly about everything, how I wanted to marry someone, and that meant we had to break up, for real. But again, she refused, and she screamed and yelled. I knew what I had to do. I told her I would pay her $50,000 if she would agree to break up, and if she would stay away from me forever. Kelly stopped talking, and I was shocked to see the greed in her eyes. $100,000, said Kelly. I was startled. No, that's way too much, I argued. She pouted her lips. $100,000 or I'll never leave you, and you'll never get to marry that dream girl of yours. I sighed. This woman was crazy. But she stubbornly remained at $100,000. I finally relented and accepted the offer. Anything so I would be rid of this girl. The next week, I proposed to Julia. For a second, I thought after all I had done to try and have Julia to myself, she would say no. But she didn't. She cried and said yes, and said she had been waiting for so long. We were going to get married in 6 months. I was so excited. Now, I haven't told you about a friend of mine, but his name is Luke, and he was going to be my best man in the wedding. He was my best friend since high school, and surprisingly, we had both grown up to be wealthy men. One day, when we were having lunch, he told me about this girl he was dating. I don't like her and I can't get her to leave, he told me. What do you mean? I asked. Well, I told her things weren't working well between us, and I thought it was time we broke up. But she said no. She refused to break up with me. Isn't that weird? I was startled. Surely it wasn't the same girl. Surely it was just a coincidence. What happened? I asked Luke. She's still living at my place, he said. I mean, don't get me wrong, she's pretty and all, but man, can she be annoying. I just want to get rid of her. That sucks, I said. That's not even the worst part, said Luke. When I told her to leave, she said she would only leave if I paid her. As if I would do that. She had some real nerve, I have to admit. At this point, I was sure this was Kelly. But then again, maybe there were a lot of women out there who were like that. How would I know? So I brushed it aside and I chose to forget about it. For several months later, on the day of my wedding, everything went wrong. We had already had the ceremony. Julia looked beautiful in her white dress, and she told me I looked handsome in my black tuxedo. Though I didn't believe her. We were in the dining room about to start the 3-course dinner when I noticed something in the distance, on the other side of the room. A green beanie with blonde curls beneath it. My heart stopped. No, it couldn't be her. Not here. Not now. But sure enough, as my eyes focused, I could discern her face in the crowd. Why was she here? Had she followed me again? Was she going to demand I pay more money? All of these panicky thoughts raced through my head, but they were all interrupted as Kelly caught my glare. She looked at me, seemingly nonchalant, and then started walking towards us. Julia was sitting right beside me. I didn't want to ruin her wedding, but Kelly didn't stop. And then it was too late. She was standing right in front of me. Then she did something I did not expect. She leaned over and kissed Luke. Everything clicked into place. Kelly was Luke's mystery girlfriend. "Oh, hi, Kelly," started Luke, his face red. "Guys, this is my girlfriend." I nodded my head, still shocked, but Julia shook Kelly's hand cheerfully. I had to do something. I had to get Kelly out of here before she told Julia or did something troublesome. Kelly had left to get some snacks from the buffet, and I followed quickly after her. I confronted Kelly, and she told me she was dating my best man. I told her to leave, and at first, I thought she wouldn't. I thought she would be just as stubborn as when I used to date her. But she wasn't. She agreed, said she would stay true to her promise, and left without even telling Luke. Surprisingly, the rest of the wedding went smoothly, except for Luke's confusion at Kelly's disappearance, though he was somewhat relieved. And we had an amazing night. I was with the woman of my dreams, and I wouldn't have it any other way. Julia was perfect for me, and I would do everything in my power to try to be perfect for her. Looking back, I'm so glad I've gotten rid of that part of my life. Julia and I are still happily married, but still to this day, I fear Kelly will come back, seeking more money, threatening to tell my wife, Julia. Kelly hasn't approached me yet, but every time I see a blonde-haired girl wearing a green beanie, dread courses through me.